Hey guys, welcome back to another reaction to John Peterson. Today I want to start and kick off this video by first of all wishing all of you a happy new year. For you guys who are new to this channel, I'm a German engineer. I'm going to react to different videos on the internet, but for the first part I'm going to react to John Peterson videos, and thanks to the very nice comment section, I'm also starting to react to Ben Shapiro in the future. So what are we looking today? I'm going to react to a video which was made Joe Rogan Experience 877, and it's about unearned moral superiority. So let's dive in.
Hello, freak bitches. Why do these patterns repeat themselves? What is it about human beings?
Well, we like things simple. We like things simple. So, and you often, like, a simple explanation is a good explanation unless it's too simple. But distinguishing between simple and too simple is no easy matter. We like to know who's our friend and who's our enemy. And we like the feeling of unearned moral superiority. And then
unearned moral superiority.
Yeah,
that's the
why
the
earn it, man? Especially when there's no such thing as earning anyways. So, and then, I mean, there's deeper and darker things that are underneath that. It's like the human proclivity to pull down those who have more than you. It's like these kids on the campuses who are claiming identity with the oppressed, you know, at somewhere like Yale. It's like, how in the world you can speak of oppression if you happen to be at Yale is beyond me. I mean, first of all, you're North American, which puts you in the top 1%. And then of North Americans, you're in the top 1%. So you're in the top 1% of 1%. But yet you want that. You want to have all the power that goes along with that. And you want to have the moral superiority that comes from being a representative of the oppressed. So that's exactly what you want. You want all the power and you want all the victimization at the same time.
Well,
yeah, this is exactly the point he made earlier. I mean, unearned moral superiority. So yeah, the combination of those two powers, that's that's a pattern we could observe. Actually, I never thought about that. Interesting.
Yale's a great example because Yale was one of what happened with the Halloween costume debacle at Yale was one of the first videos that was released that made people horrified, where they couldn't believe how students were communicating with professors.
Yeah, well, the student who screamed up a storm about that the male professor who was the husband of the woman who wrote the pro-Halloween costume letter, it turned out she was on the bloody hiring committee that hired him. One of the things she screamed was, "Who hired you?" It was like, well, it turned out it was you because you were on the committee just a few years before. I know, and they took, like, yeah, that was absolutely
Explain
appalling.
that to people that don't know what the hell we're talking about.
Well,
but explain this debacle, because it really was about questionable Halloween costumes.
Well, it was about questioning Halloween costumes. Halloween costumes are part of the whole point of Halloween is to have questionable costumes, right? You play with death, for example, and decay and horror, and it's a time when the norms with regards to the expression of things that are outside of our normal behavior are suspended so that everybody can have a little celebration. As it turns out, well, you know, campuses have got all upset about things like cultural appropriation at Queen's University.
Yeah, and maybe as a side information, what John Peterson is saying here, I really saw this kind of escaping out of the culture when I used to live in Tokyo for 6 months, and the Japanese people, they're really, I would say, shy and also very polite. And you normally, if you're living there on a day-to-day basis, you don't really recognize that they break out of their cultural boundaries, so to say. But the only celebration where all those social rules are broken, basically, where you can drink on the street, where you can eat during your walking, where you can really show some unusual body parts and stuff like this. This is the only time in the year where the Japanese people, especially Tokyo people, are celebrating this is on Halloween, and that's the reason why I think in Tokyo they have the biggest Halloween party on the world. So this was really like my personal experience, I really saw that Halloween is used actually in Tokyo to exactly do that.
In Canada just the other week, they were going after students who were dressing up as Viet Cong, for example, or Mexicans. It's like, I just don't see what the hell's racist about dressing up like a Mexican. Mexicans have a traditional clothing. There's nothing wrong with Mexicans, so why is it wrong to dress up like
Yeah.
them?
Right.
And
If you want
Exactly.
to be Pancho Villa for Halloween, what's wrong with that?
well, you can regard that as an homage just as much as a denigration. It's like, why
Absolutely.
is that such a problem?
Right.
But anyways, it doesn't matter because nothing's too trivial to be a problem to a social justice warrior, and because they don't like to deal with real problems.
Yeah, and I think it's also very important in which context you present yourself. For example, if you're wearing a costume and you really behave like a total idiot, in this way you don't really represent it properly, and then you kind of bring shame to this kind of, because you're looking like it. People are going to associate your behavior with your look, and this could be disrespectful. So I mean, in a way, if you're wearing stuff and if you want to imitate somebody, do it wholly, not partly.
And Yale went after Halloween costumes.
So this woman wrote a letter saying maybe we should just relax about this stuff and, you know, don't put restrictions on what people wear for Halloween, but let people decide what is and isn't offensive.
Yes, and many Halloween costumes are offensive. That's the point.
But her letter was really reasonable.
Yeah, it was perfectly reasonable. It was like an adult wrote it.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know, all hell broke loose.
All hell broke
and
loose.
she ended up quitting.
And I think he did. Did
No,
he
I don't
leave?
think he left. But she did.
Seeing him bow down to this woman screaming at him, swearing in his face, was so disturbing. It was so humiliating. I felt so humiliated for him. Because she was screaming, "This is our home. What the fuck are you doing? You're not making this safe."
And it's not her bloody home. The university's not a home.
Yeah,
It's not a safe space. It's not a secure space. None of that.
Actually, the university is basically not the only point, but the point where all your ideas should be challenged. And this is actually, I mean, from my experience in university, I was not studying in the social fields. I was studying mechanical engineering. But in that sense, we were really encouraged to basically tell what we are thinking, and the professor, which we usually respect in a way, because the man or the woman is knowing more about the subject than you, so you have like a source of knowledge and you have to treat it with respect. Nevertheless, we had some discussions where we tried to challenge each other's ideas, and if you do this is never comfortable. If you tell your idea and the professor is always saying yes in order to not offend you in a way, in this way you can't really make progress. You have to be willing to be offended in order to make progress. Otherwise it's just like agreeing on everything because you're scared to offend somebody and because you are scared of the consequences which could come with that. So for example, if I'm a professor and I critique somebody's thinking, or if I suggest another way, and then this person or student is felt offended, and then they will, I don't know, try to fire me in a way or make it a huge thing on social media. This is kind of an suppression in a way, on the reverse kind. Crazy. So let's continue.
And if that, when a university isn't a home, that's not what it is. It's a place to be confronted by, I would say, often horrible ideas.
Yeah.
You want to learn about history? You think that's going to be safe? Do you know what human history is like? It's an endless bloodbath with a certain amount of hopeful progress underlying it. It's a horror show, and great literature is like that, and
some very nice highlights. Do not forget it. Humanity is not all the way bad.
Biology is terrifying, and physics is terrifying, and you want to be safe. It's stay home. Stay home with your mom. Stay home with your dad. Don't come to university if you want to be safe. Because
don't even go outside.
No.
Yeah.
If the university is going to make you safe, then it ceased to be a university. So one of the things I try to do in my class, I have this class called Maps of Meaning, which concentrates on atrocity, basically, on Soviet atrocity and and Nazi atrocity mostly. And what I try to do in the class is to teach my students that had they been in Nazi Germany in the 1930s, they would have been Nazis. And had they been offered the opportunity to be an Auschwitz camp guard, then maybe they would have leapt at it. And maybe they would have been in the more sadistic proportion of the Auschwitz camp guard population. You think that makes you feel safe? It doesn't make you feel safe to know that Nazis were humans and you happen to be one of them. So I think that educators that tell students that they're offering them a safe space are doing them a profound disservice. And I'm a clinical psychologist, and here's one of the things you do to make people less afraid. You don't make the world safer. What you do is people tell you what they're afraid of, and then you break it into little bits so that they can go confront them. So maybe they're afraid of going to a party, and you break that down. You say, well, do you know how to introduce yourself? And they say, well, I don't really even know how to shake someone's hand. And so then you practice having them shake their hand and introduce themselves, because maybe they weren't taught by their half-witted parents when they were young, because they were ignored. And so then you say, well, maybe you can go to a party for half an hour, and all you have to do is introduce yourself to 2 people, and we'll call that success. And you build up their competence and their confidence one step at a time. And what happens, the clinical literature indicates quite clearly, is you don't make people less anxious by doing that. You make them braver. It's not the same thing. You don't make the world and its horrors smaller. You make the person and their capacity to deal with horror larger. You encourage them. You strengthen them. That's what you do at a university. You arm people with arguments. You hone their intellect. You help them learn to write so they can marshal their arguments. You help them learn how to engage in intellectual combat, because that's better than engaging in real combat. You make them hard and strong. You don't mollycoddle them and make them safe unless you're their enemy, unless you're trying to devour their spirit. And that's what we have in the universities. We have the reign of the Oedipal mother, whose answer to everything is, oh, just come a little closer, dear, and I'll protect you from the world. It's just like Hansel and Gretel's.
Yeah, at this point I just want to quickly elaborate or actually tell my opinion. I think that's a really slippery slope, since we have, as humans, we demonstrated and we had the ability to actually make the world as it is a little bit more safer with our inventions. It's not that dangerous, for example, for us human beings. If we compare thousands of years ago, I mean, we don't hunt saber-toothed tigers and stuff like that. So we are actually able to make our environment safer. But I think there's a kind of a threshold. If you make the world too safe, you actually really prohibit the development of a human being in a way that the human being is trying to be too comfortable. And in my personal experience, and this is, I think, very individual for really everybody, but in my personal experience, what I really saw is that all the stuff which makes you uncomfortable, where you have to put in extra hours, where you have to put in an extra workout, stuff like this, all this is actually extremely rewarding in a way, and makes you kind of tougher, as John Peterson mentioned, and prepares you for the world. And I think the world as it is right now is tough. It's very tough, and it's really crucial to toughen up in order to succeed in this world. It's not that easy to make it any more safer in a way, and I wouldn't count on that. But this is actually my own opinion. But I would be highly interested how you think about it. So bomb those comments under this video. I'm really enjoying all the comments. So yeah, let's finish it up. The last 2 seconds, not the last 2 seconds, but last 30 seconds of this brilliant video. Let's go.
The witch in the Hansel and Gretel story. Well, my house is made of gingerbread. Just come in here and everything will be fine. Well, she feeds you candy to fatten you up so she can eat you. That's the archetype of a modern university.
Yeah, crazy, man, crazy. Yeah, how do I feel about this video? I think, it talks in for me, this is actually basically, it's really common sense. And I do see a threat if the universities are trying to make everything too comfortable, and if they give too much power to the students in a way that you are not able to offend their ideas or ideologies. And yeah, I tend to look in the past and compare how it was and what progress do we made. And I think there's one saying which is really nailing it. It is basically, tough times make tough people or good leaders. Good leaders create easy times create weak leaders, and weak leaders create hard times, and hard times create good leaders. So I think we are right now, if you look at this cycle, I think we are right now really at the point where the people are probably too weak. And in my sense, I would say we have to toughen up in a way. We have to toughen up. And I think this is really common sense, but it's just my opinion. And that's also the reason why I do these videos. I watched it in the past, and I was always like, well, okay, let's check out the comments. What are people saying? And it's hard to get a really reaction or discussion starting on those things. So yeah, please, if you're interested in more of those videos, like it, subscribe it if you really love it. And yeah, let's start 2021 with a good sense, and I hope we can get closer to each other and do not make those social distancing a trend of 2021. So guys, peace out, and let's get this mic out of my face.